Let's turn this into this. What's good, guys? Beatsticks here, and if you're seeing this, I'm actually on holiday right now because I pre-recorded this, but I just wanted to give you some more source and keep my regular upload schedule. So we are looking today at the 1/4 progression, which is super common in R&B. So many songs, so many hit records, Grammy winning records have used this chord progression over the years. I'm going to break it down, then we're going to show you some source and some ways to add a modern touch to this in your R&B productions. So make sure you stay tuned to the very end. Go follow me on Instagram, Beatsticks Production, cop some of my free mini kits and hit me up. I'd love to hear from you. The theory here could not be simpler. We've got two chords. We've got a 1 chord and a 4 chord. So the 1 chord in C major, we're in the key of C major, is just going to be a C major chord, and the 4 chord, if we count up, C, D, E, F, our 4 is F, and so we're going to build some kind of F major chord, because diatonically the 1 and the 4 chords in any diatonic scale are going to be major chords. Also the 5 is also a major chord, and then you've got minor chords and a diminished on the 7. So we're going to look at this little triad here. We've got C and E and a G, the 1, the 3 and the 5. Now we're just going to add one more note. We're going to add the B. To find the major 7th interval from any note, you just go to that note, and the note here is C because that's our root note of this chord, and we just draw a note, the directly underneath that. We move that up an octave. We have a C major 7th in its root position, and we do exactly the same with this F major here. We've got an F, an A and a C, and the note directly underneath F is an E note, and there we have the two chords here. Now that sounds quite clangy and terrible. Now we can use different things to make this sound better. Let's immediately take this note, drop it down, take this note, drop it down. So still sounds a bit clangy. What about if we take these two notes here? You're going to see how close together we can actually get these different notes here. Ooh, listen to that. Do you know what? You've got some dissonance here because these two notes are rubbing together, which just it kind of clashes, but in a really good way. This is what I've done pretty much throughout the sample. So I've just moved the notes around. I've arpeggiated them, which just means like playing them out, but like moving up or down the notes in the chord and playing them one after another. And hear tons of that in scissor and in R&B, in modern R&B. Major 7 chords just have this magical sound to them. They're kind of bright, but also a little bit nostalgic and sad as well. They're really good to use. And the 1/4 progression is just like tried and tested for many, many years. You can do more with this. You can take this, drop this down. Once you put these on other sounds and you start experimenting with rhythms and different techniques, then these chords are just going to take on a life of their own. And you're going to see how I use this, and I put melodies on top and we just elevated it. So quick theory breakdown, but that's all you need to know here today. So yet again, guys, we're using Multikeys, but we're using it slightly differently today, and we're going to get into all that, don't you worry. But first, let's go back to the very, very beginning of how I started this sample. I had my two chords, and I was like, how can I elevate these chords just beyond stuff that's been done a billion times before? I went for my Sky keys as usual, just to play some chords out and get me started. But instead of playing the full voicing of the chord, I thought I'd build into the chords. So you can see I played I think this might be called a rootless voicing. Let me just take the sound shifter off because I pitched this whole sample down to B major instead of C major. If we take that off, now we're back in C major. Here's the first thing that I programmed. Something about that sound, something about the voicings I chose here is just giving me like a nostalgic feeling, and that's the kind of thing that I always get from scissor and artists like that. It's that longing for days gone by type thing, and that was going to be the springboard and the inspiration behind everything else that I added. Processing wise, nothing much on here. As I said, Sky keys, just the first preset that comes on when you open it. Got my favorite reverb here. a tiny bit of EQ. I added the bass in straight away, and I thought I'd experiment with the bass this time, do something different. I just chose root notes where the chord drops here on the 1 and here on bar 5, but in between I kind of played notes at random. I just thought, like, let me try something different. Normally I'd, you know, stick to pentatonic sort of notes, but I just picked notes that are within the C major scale and came out with this. And this note here, this F note, leads us back to the C. It's a 4th away from the C. I don't usually use a 4th away, but I thought here this would work really well. Normally I would like go with a G here. You'll hear how this would sound, you know, but the F is a little bit more solemn, a little bit sadder, and I felt it was appropriate here. So again, just making decisions like based on, you know, emotions and how these things make you feel is sometimes good, rather than just like programming, putting anything in. So everything has intention, as I always say. I added some percussion, really light, and as you can see, like, there's hardly anything again in this sample. It's so simple. Percussion wise, I added a little loop from my guy Louis, and I stretched the loop just to fit. I added a little rim shot, and then one sound that comes in just once in the whole first section of the sample. So so you can really hear it taking shape there. And yeah, hi, here I am. I actually forgot to press record, but I haven't got time to do it again, so you'll see me from now on. I was thinking, what can I add here to add a little bit of texture, because everything's very soft right now. And I then went for this sound in the Sky Keys first, which contrasts the other sound. As I always say, like, pick sounds that complement each other but could also contrast each other. This clean thumb piano, you're going to see what this adds. If I just solo the sound off by itself, here it almost sounds like a little sort of xylophone or vibes type thing, marimba type thing. I strummed out the notes on this instead of playing them like block chords, and I used the same MIDI that I had programmed before. Now listen to these sounds together. And it's not quite in tune as well. It's got a sort of like slightly detuned kind of feeling to it, but in this instance I really liked how that sounded. So with the bass and the percussion in, it kind of sits on top, really like sad again and nostalgic. Here comes the multi-keys. Again, I think I may have done this in one other video, but I just played the same note over and over again. The great thing about this multi-keys is that every time I played the note, a different note would obviously ring out. So if I move it over here, I've just got this patch saved in. These are just one shots from Coop the Truth's manifestation kit, and I just dropped 4 one shots in, and they're all playing on C, which means that I'm going to get nice continuity when I cycle through the notes. You would just go over to here to this map round robin. You can also do like you could try random as well, which is a similar kind of thing. Instead of just going one after the other, though, it just will pick a note at random. Let's change that to random and see how that sounds, in fact. Really strange, otherworldly kind of feel, right? And on this I added this shaper box to pan it from left to right, and also this Uber mod, which I sometimes like to use, just added a really haunting quality to it. Again, I'm always thinking on this sample like nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. If we listen to all the parts now, cool thing about that E is if you think about that note going all the way through, so when the C major 7th is playing, that's going to be our third, our major third. But when the F major 7th is playing, that's going to be our major 7th. So as the chords cycle through, that note changes its relationship to the chord underneath. And that concept works super well when you're moving, when you're keeping one note on the top and moving chords and bass notes underneath that. Last thing I added in this section, I just sung a voice note into my phone of this crazy sort of, just a little melody, put loads of processing on it. The main source is probably this filter freak, kind of acting like this little filter going up and down, Auto tune there, pretty obvious. Put a phaser on there. I use that similar like Uber mod trick there. And again, this all sort of comes down to experimentation. I also shifted this up 1 octave, which meant it turned more into almost like a lead synth sound rather than a vocal sound. So it's all just like playing with texture, playing with sounds that you've got to transform them into something else. And some of it's experimentation, happy accidents, and some of it is more deliberate. So if we move into the second section, what have we got? That multi-keys stays the same, but I raised it up an octave. So now some multi-key source for you. I programmed in our chords here in an arpeggiated kind of way, which is really what you hear in a lot of kind of scissor productions that sounds like this. Check this out. I then bounced that in place. I kind of resampled it and I reversed that, and this was going to be the kind of basis for my next section. That alone would make a fire sample or beat, but you know, we had to take it a step further. And if you want this as well, just hit me up on Instagram, BSticks Production. I'll send you the parts for this, no problem. But it's probably going to end up in a future kit. When we add the bass in, and I changed the bass up here, same sound, but I just made it a bit more sparse, a bit more empty. Space. Crazy with the little pedal tone going all the way through. I mean, that alone is just fire, but I added a choir in as well. I went for the Hollywood backup singers, and this choir I just built and built and built on. Look. Ooh, crazy. A little rim for some rhythm. That vocal. A little texture from Louis there. Again, put it in key, stretched it a little bit. That cassette tape here, which is just like adding texture. And crazy little shaker loop. So what's the takeaway here? That I've literally got 3 sounds, and I'm making something that's filling up the sonic space, sounds fire, sounds crazy. You don't need much, but what you do need is intention and having that kind of vision to put it out and create your vision, your unique vision into the DAW. So good luck, guys. And if you got something out of this, check one of these videos up above.